Good evening and welcome to The Square. Tonight's discussion will focus on the festive season in Kigali. We are here to understand, one, what can revelers expect in terms of facilitation by relevant authorities, in this case City of Kigali and the Rwanda National Police. Two, we also want to understand how can the public best utilize spaces in Kigali for recreational purposes. Basically, it's the do's and the don'ts in this festive season as we are today. I am joined here by the Vice Mayor in charge of Social Affairs, Patricia Muhongerwa. Thank you for joining us from the City of Kigali.
Thank you, too.
We are also joined here from Rwanda National Police. Representing Rwanda National Police is a spokesperson of Rwanda National Police, CP John Bosco Kavera. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. My name is Diana Mpisi. I'm a host of The Square, and I'm joined by my resident panelists on The Square. I'm joined by Charles Haba. Always a pleasure to have you.
How are you?
Good. Good. I'm also joined by Brian Namata.
Good.
Great to have you back. You were not here last week.
Yeah.
As always on The Square, we are also joined usually as a resident panelist with Ephraim Romende. He's not here today, but he'll be following the show from where he is. So basically, before we get into things as we do we have a weekly mid-recap?
I have two things to talk about. Number one is to do with you, Diana.
Yes.
With your family. I was particularly impressed. You know, your grandfather, Pastor Mchisi, has a lot of history. And I was particularly impressed that the granddaughter, there's no better person who could tell the story than the granddaughter. And Kamikaze did a fabulous job in terms of producing a story about her grandfather. Now that might be belittled because it's a granddaughter telling about a story about the grandfather. But when you follow the teachings of Pastor Mchisi, and I'm not saying this because Diana is on the show, but history is rich.
Yeah.
If nobody tells and talks about this history, we will leave a huge gap to the generations that come after us. And then I will come to a very interesting conversation about the heroes of the liberation struggle. Our stories should be told by Rwandans. I rest my case.
I think just very quickly on that, I know there's someone who's a Rwandan young filmmaker lady who's actually doing a film in that regard.
Yes.
That should be due next year. Anything you want to touch on that happened in the week?
It didn't happen this week. It was last week. I wasn't here last week, so I still have a chance. I'm still reflecting on the national dialogue. Just this week, yes, we had the resolutions come out. And for me, the 16th dialogue will remain very special and perhaps a turning point for this country because for the first time there was a lot of focus on social protection, you know. And so when you see the head of state spending a lot of time discussing circles, how to get them efficient, because these circles ideally work with ordinary Rwandans, the majority of Rwandans. So to have a national dialogue focused on that, I think it's something that we shouldn't take for granted. Absolutely. You know, because quite often, as the elite, we dominate the discourse. So to have a head of state focus on social protection, I think for me, the 16th national dialogue will remain, the highlight for a very long time.
Very interesting analysis, Brenna. Thank you very much. To our guests, I'd like to thank you once again for coming on the show. It's the festive season. Right now, what everyone is talking about is what merrymakers are going to do in Kigali and across the country. And that's why we invited you, because you're the two institutions that are relevant when it comes to coordinating and facilitating the public. So my first question is to both of you, and I'll start with you, Honorable Vice Mayor. So what we'd like to understand right now, one of the recurring complaints we have is to do with the permission process. This is a permission process when it comes to hosting events and utilizing this festive season to have events and put money back in the economy, and so have you. It's a process, basically, of revelers actually going out of their way to attend these events and also organize them. So some of the recurring complaints we've heard is that maybe the response time is too slow, or it's not clear. So we want to understand the institutional coordination between City of Kigali and Rwanda National Police when it comes to permissions during this festive season. If you can please start.
Yeah, thank you so much, Diana. Maybe before I come to that, I'll first highlight on the purposes for which we actually engage these events promoters. And this is where it is based. In our annual action plans in the city, we have a component we call the lively city, Kigali, the lively city. And the purposes for this is to make the city attractive, live, and attract people to come, to eat, to visit it, to enjoy, and actually like whatever is planned to be seen and to be enjoyed in the city. So among the activities we put in this component is to encourage and attract these promoters for events and attract them towards coming to us, talking to us, giving us their plans. So we plan together and actually come to the point where they will fix dates and whatever they want to show during the festive season like this one. And among the events, actually so far what I can say, I'm very comfortable and happy that everyone who submitted this request in the city of Kigali is, as we talk now, very comfortable, has been responded to. We have about 15 promoters now that are ready to set the Kigali city on kind of fire. Beautiful fire, positive fire. Yes. So maybe depending on the procedures we have for having these partners work with us, we can't just let it go. So whoever comes does whatever they do. We have a procedure, we have some guidelines we follow. When they submit this request to us, we ask them to do it in before 7 days to the event. And we do whatever it takes, consulting police, doing the due diligence to come to the point to allow or actually not allow, because it also happens. And the response is provided in 3 days' time. So we leave a balance of 4 days to the event, to the planned event. And I think so far for this particular festive season, we are both comfortable. There were no complaints and what to do.
I'd like to now ask Mr. CP John Bosco Kabera, in terms of what is also the process when it comes to police for these permissions? Because based on Vice Mayor's comments, the first stage, the first stop is to do with the city of Kigali, and thereafter also Rwanda National Police. So from your perspective, what is the process?
Thank you, Diana. First of all, I want to say a few things before I respond to that question. We, Rwanda National Police, the city of Kigali, and the event organizers and the public share the same interests and goals. That is to allow people to enjoy when it comes to festival seasons. A season like this one we are going to enter into. So, Rwanda National Police work with the city of Kigali in organizing some of these events. Basically, the request and approval is through the city of Kigali. Rwanda National Police is consulted in as far as the aspect of security is concerned. We need to get involved to see where these events are going to take place. We need to do some planning. We need to understand how many people are likely to come. We need to see and even to understand the event organizers, how they intend to conduct such events and run such events. And so through the process of application and approval, I think the city of Kigali has to do due diligence, as she has just said. So Rwanda National Police will advise accordingly if the event is going to be hosted, and then I don't see any problem with that, because there are guidelines, there are laws, there are guidelines, and the framework is well established, so I don't see any need for complaint.
Bernard and Charles, would you like to weigh in at this point, or?
I just have one quick observation. Today, the city council and the police, I guess, had a press conference talking about the festive season, I think, with the activities. Now, as someone from the media with commercial interests, I feel the city council and the police are doing us a disservice. If you call journalists to help promoters promote their events, where are we going to get the revenue in terms of advertising? Because already you're telling people, I mean, imagine RBA is there. They've covered the press conference, and you're saying this and this is going to happen, this and this. These promoters are not going to spend money.
Well, how do you mean? Because, for instance,
Let me
they're
help
basically,
I was not in the press conference. I'm not a media personality. I'm an ordinary Muturaji. But I've been reliably informed that in the press conference it was communicated that there's X number of activities during the festive season. This one will start at this time and the other one will end at that time. And the biggest issue that there is that they have set, I think the event that ends at the latest time during the festive season ends at 3 a.m. Right. Now, back to the point that Diana was raising around institutional coordination. Afande Kabera and Patricia, your salary comes from taxpayers. The government of Rwanda is driving MICE tourism. Here you are telling people not to do events during the festive season. You're telling people you're telling somebody who runs a club, you're telling, I think the only person who has a blanket amnesty is Jitwaza, who is allowed to preach the gospel until 6 a.m. I actually looked at the whole list of people who are allowed to spend money until morning. Which money pays all of us? It is only Jitwaza.
So basically, if we can, I think what we want to touch on is this list that you have, that was in the press conference. If in terms of being a lively city, in terms of being a 24/7 entertainment place during this particular season to capitalize on spending, what is your comment on the limit of most events ending by midnight and the latest being 2 or 3 a.m.? Why did you come to that? Why is that your cap?
It depends on the request for individual event promoter. So we discussed and came to a conclusion to that time limitation. Otherwise, we don't have any contradiction because we want a lively city. Actually, people who are coming. I don't think you
want a lively city. And
we do.
I will
want
actually
to promote
have
it.
a
We already have it.
bone of contention with the honorable vice mayor, because there is no way you can wake up in the morning and say you want a lively city when you are killing the city.
Can you elaborate without the hyperbole, Charles?
Yes.
Without exaggerations. Yes. No one is killing anyone or anything. But would you elaborate on what you mean by not facilitating this liveliness of the city?
I'm going to
hyperbole
talk about,
aside.
I'm going to talk about fireworks, and I will start with fireworks. Right?
Yes.
The city of Kigali is so broke that it wrote a letter to people asking for money for fireworks. I hope you have the money for fireworks.
Of course, of course.
Yes, I hope stakeholders...
Of course, they did provide that money.
Yes, stakeholders, of course. Even if you came to the square and told us, and RB and everybody and our Rwanda National Police, contribute money, harambe, for fireworks, we will want fireworks. But this is what's going to happen. How do you tell us that the moment fireworks go up, a few minutes after, because when I looked at the whole program, and I'm glad that you have it in front of you, Honorable Vice Mayor, the latest schedule ends at 3 a.m. So 2 hours after the fireworks are
3 a.m.?
Yes. Yeah, with the exception of the churches. And I'm hoping you come from a a church family because I assume that's where that's where the biggest problem is. But my biggest issue is, how are we going to go out there and say, come to Kigali, it's a lively city, come and spend your money. And we are asking people to close their festivities, Honorable Vice Mayor Afande Kabera, at 1 a.m. during the festive season.
Yeah, so please.
But may I respond?
Yes.
Maybe we need to be very clear about this.
Yes.
There are standing guidelines with regard to the hosting of such events. In open spaces, for example, during the weekdays, events can be organized and conducted from 6 up to 10 a.m. Okay? That is for open spaces. Then over the weekend.
You mean 10 p.m.?
4 a.m.
10
No,
p.m.?
from 6 to 10 p.m.
PM, yes.
Okay, during working days. Then over the weekend, over the weekend, it can go up to 6 p.m. But in areas and in facilities where you have got soundproofed premises, these events can run up to the morning. So I think the state of Kigali have clearly said that they met the event organizers. They discussed and possibly they agreed. Sure. I don't think the state of Kigali can simply impose.
That's not right, Afande Kabera.
Let him finish.
A minute. That's what you've been told. Maybe you may be having some other source of information, but with regard to what we are seeing here in the program and what the Vice Mayor was talking about during our press conference, this is what is happening. I don't think the state of Kigali could be able to ignore the regulations. National Noise Pollution Guidelines Handbook. It was developed by RDB, Rwanda Development Board, and this is the institution that promotes investment. Okay? So, I don't think the state of Kigali, the Rwanda National Police can simply act in contravention of these guidelines and the laws. So we need to understand, because we need to understand this, because there should not be any conflict between the event promoters, the public, the state of Kigali that approves the Rwanda National Police that conducts policing and ensuring safety and security of those people.
Very quickly, Afande, because I want us to also move. Charles will come back to your point, but this is a fluid conversation. I think also what we're also just frankly saying on the square is that in the future, to capitalize on time and duration and spending and everything that comes with it, maybe it's worth looking and investigating if the hours can be stretched in the future, when it comes to merrymaking and festivities and giving deadlines of midnight when it comes to this particular season. I think that's the conversation we're trying to see.
Yes, sure.
But now, moving on, and we'll come back to this, Honorable Mayor, this is definitely a recurring point. I would like Afande John Bosco to please illustrate this device on noise pollution, because this particular season does not come without the noise pollution aspect to it. We've discussed this on the square before, and this time we're very happy to see that you actually brought the device. And if you can illustrate how this thing works.
He came with all his tools, the policy, and
he's fully armed.
I think that has been, one of the issues, one of the problems for the people to understand really what is about the noise pollution. And how does the police come? How do the police come into?
And I hope you can answer the question that
yes,
asked
I'm going to, yes.
in relation to the festive season.
In relation to the festive season.
Yes.
Now we have the national guidelines for noise pollution. It is a handbook here. We wish every Rwandan, every event organizer should be able to have this book. And possibly we shall request the state of Kigali, for those who will be submitting in their applications, they should be able to be given this handbook for them to understand.
And tell Rwanda Revenue Authority as well.
Maybe, yeah.
Yes.
So, this handbook provides all clear guidelines from the point of one conceiving an idea, making an application, approval and conduct and hosting the event. So this handbook is very rich and has all the information necessary for every Rwandan, for every bar, for every hotel, for everyone who wishes to host an event or conduct an event, including house parties, their guidelines, including churches, which Abad was just talking about. It has got soundproof church. That's why it's running until morning. Or even it can run even during daytime because nobody outside or outside the church will be able to experience noise pollution. So there is a device which we think every Rwandan, for example, Charles, if you would like to organize a house party at home.
The only noise I make is on the on the square.
Okay. On the square, okay. Bana, if you would like to organize a party at home, for example, for the festive season, or Diana,
for the East African.
For the East African, you need to have this device.
Interesting.
It is called sound level meter.
Can I have a look?
Yes, you can have a look.
But can you imagine how
The
practical
guidelines-
it is
The guidelines
to measure?
stated that it is up to 80 decibel. According to the Rwanda Environment Management Authority, noise pollution in a country is determined when the sound goes beyond 80 decibel or dB. Bell is the unit through which noise is measured. 80 dB is the level at which sound is physically painful. So
80. So right now,
80.
aren't we talking at 80?
Let's measure ourselves.
Thank you so much, Bana. Let's measure ourselves.
No, it is not 80. It is not calculated. It has to be fixed.
I think
This is
Afande
not
Kabera does
child.
not trust his
It's
device.
No, it is. It is not fixed.
It's
It is
not
not
fixed.
fixed. Yeah, it is not fixed. It has to be fixed.
So
Clearly.
80 is actually.
Yes, it's
It's
the limit.
it's
Yes,
the
beyond
limit.
which, yes, the sound starts to get painful to your ears, and this has got very many effects: physiological,
effects.
psychological.
But
Okay.
Afande, let's be very practical.
Yeah.
Imagine in a party environment, who is going to remember about measuring sound? I mean, people are probably
You soundproof
drunk.
the room.
But then you have to be a responsible citizen.
I
yeah?
know.
The city of Kigali and the national police needs to understand that we're in a festive season. Don't bring us these theories.
Why
We're in a
have
festive season.
But Haba, it
There's
becomes-
a reason why Jesus was born on the 25th of December.
But understand this. There are four parties in all of this.
Yes.
There is the event manager who wishes to conduct to host a party.
Yes.
There's the city of Kigali. There is the public, and we're national police.
That are not part
And for
of
us,
that.
we do work and act in the interest of the public and both of you. Okay, so the laws and regulations have been put in place to be able to give everyone a share of enjoyment. So if you'll be out there, I mean, partying, singing, dancing, someone would like to be sleeping, for example, he or she has another program tomorrow. So it is up to the institutional framework, basing on existing guidelines and laws and regulations, to be able to give everyone
Provide order.
the share, okay, of what she or he is due to. I mean, should
With
be
all due
given
respect,
according to
Afande
the law.
Kabera,
So-
I am going to give you credit
Yeah.
on an area where you've done extremely well, and that is in as far as managing night traffic. And but of course, day traffic you have 12 out of 10, but night traffic you have done extremely well. You have 10 out of 10. During all other days, with the exception of the festive season, and I'll give you areas. Maybe 2-3 years ago, you used to be extremely vigilant on
Just to be
breathalyzers.
clear, you're paying
Yes.
a compliment.
Yes. No.
I just had to. I had to.
Police is fabulous, and I believe one of the areas why police has done extremely well is because they listen to the public.
Absolutely.
Yesterday somebody shared something on social media around community policing. I think they sent a video of a driver.
Right driver, yes.
Yeah. And our police listens. I'm extremely happy about this. I am also extremely happy about things to do with breathalyzers test. People did not, for a very long time, the Rwanda National Police did not realize that the only way you cannot tell that somebody is not in a position to drive is not by testing the breath, but by testing
Engaging.
They removed roadblocks. They still kept vigilant policemen on the streets. It reduced accidents very significantly, and National Police honestly, and
And
on
when you
the
say
square.
when you say it reduced accidents, it's because people would actually be dodging where those police were stationed and using
By
other
the
routes
time you
to.
have the alertness, Diana, to dodge a policeman, it means you have the alertness
They already,
to avoid an accident.
I know.
So what do
We
you mean?
actually had this conversation here on the square with Afande Badeje, and we praised him for that. Where I think you still need to correct is the festive season. Please understand that the Rwandan strategy, as far as tourism is concerned, is MICE tourism. We need to bring a lot of people into the country to spend the dollars that we do not earn. And I think that is where, as Diana was saying earlier on around the institutional coordination, you are, as the city of Kigali and the National Police, you still need to understand our national agenda. We need money.
Or correspond to it for that matter.
Yes.
I would like us to just move to the next topic. And like I keep on saying, we're going to definitely keep on coming back to these points.
Yes.
This is to do with spaces in Kigali. And Honorable Vice Mayor, this question goes to you also.
Yes.
But please, Afande, feel free to weigh in terms of spaces in Kigali, I know we've done the car-free zone. We have parks, so to speak. But there are no spaces when it comes to recreational facilities or activities. And upon her successful candidature, Honorable Mayor Rwakazina said that recreational spaces and facilities will be one of her key areas of focus to boost this particular element. And I just want to hear from you, what plans the city of Kigali have to do this? We don't really have parks where people can be in the open. Basically, what plans does the city of Kigali have?
Sure. Thank you so much, Diana. I would like to mention, first of all, that the city of Kigali has developed a master plan for the city that has taken into consideration every aspect of life, including those areas, free spaces, recreation areas where people can come and enjoy, relax, but again, unfortunately, the city is constructing a new city within an old city. Already those identified areas are already occupied. People are already have already constructed houses in those areas. But again, time will come when we get to expropriate them to create that free space. Maybe to be specific a little bit, in the city master plan, the city have allocated 62,000 hectares for recreational spaces, and it is where we find a neighborhood that has 5,000 inhabitants. We have 5 hectares free space for recreational purposes. However, so far we have identified some of the areas that we are working on. We have already done the studies. They have been approved and works are going on. We have this Gikondo Recreational Park. This that has formerly industrial zone is now going to be a recreational park. It is actually getting done and not almost getting done, but the works have already started. And you have the Kigali Cultural Village at the top of the elevator here. We have also the car-free zone. It hasn't been worked on yet, but the study is already approved, but it is still being used. To mention, on the 21st, we have a very strong concert in the car-free zone near Kigali City Hall, and we have various organizers entertaining people during that day. And you have also the place we call Tapis Rouge. I have a list of them here in Nyamirambo. We are also working on it. We have also Nyandungu, Nyandungu. Yes. We have also Meraneza and Mochigeri. These are the areas that are already being worked on until further notice when the city gets the resources to expropriate the people that are on the 62,000 hectares to provide free places or spaces for recreational purposes. And on this note, I would like to call upon the private sector to come and invest in this, because it can generate income for them to boost their businesses. Yeah.
Actually, giving credit to where it's due, I think the city of Kigali has done extremely well in terms of providing these recreational facilities. I have the privilege of sitting in some of the committees where the new city master plan, the revision of the city master plan 2019 for the next 5 years has been done. And they don't fall short. As a matter of fact, they actually do not approve any development plan, either for a housing estate or a commercial development, that does not provide for that recreational facility. So that is actually not where the problem is. They have provided for a lot of these facilities. For crying out loud, even the government of Rwanda has paid a lot of money. Some of the areas that the Vice Mayor Patricia is talking about, the government of Rwanda expropriated a lot, billions of francs, a lot of money in Chimichanga and some of these other areas in terms of providing. So that's not the problem. Yes, so we do have the zones.
Okay.
But I think Patricia needs Afande Kavera and the other people to support her. Sorry. She needs Afande Kavera and the other people to be able to support her, and RDB and Rwanda Convention Bureau.
This is
so
the,
that some of these investments that have been done come to life. Yeah,
it's the institutional coordination we're talking about. Yes, Bryna?
I just wanted to raise the issue of incentives as Kigali City, because you have worked on the policy framework. You know, there are all these policies that you're putting in place. But what is the incentive? As someone in the private sector, I cannot make an investment decision entirely based on policy. So one, I would like to understand what kind of incentives are there. And then two, if you could give us a sense of the linkages within the economy, because how I understand it, to have a vibrant city, it would require about 24/7, 24/7 operations. Now, if we go back to the kind of regulations that we're looking at, where you're saying up to 3 a.m. or up to 10 p.m., that means we're spending a lot of time sleeping, actually. You know, and when is entertainment going to take place?
Yes.
And the thing with entertainment is the more you try to regulate it, people will just stay away, you know, because almost every other month, you know, people have heard of these guidelines and there's this and there's this. But how about if we just say the Kigali City Council is offering ABCD for people to do events throughout, maybe the month, or because the other issue is today is the 19th. December is almost done, and you're telling us it's the festive season. People are already on holiday. They don't know what to do. They just go to restaurants, eat, and go back home and sleep. So as Kigali City, I would like to know, I mean, when you're planning policy, when you're coming up with these things, are we looking at an event calendar that runs throughout? Because that's what will generate revenue. But to tell me that you're 2 weeks to Christmas or a few days to Christmas, we're into the new year and then people are back to work.
So, but Bryna, also that was a long-winded question. Do you want Honorable Vice Mayor to give you an answer on incentives? I think let's start with that before we get to the...
Yes.
So what incentives do you provide?
Maybe to begin with, the incentive number one is, for example, they mentioned free areas now being worked on. And actually, so far, there are no funds to completely work on them all at a go. We call upon investors to bring their designs and we approve them, but they work on a free. We don't sell the free spaces. They need to come and invest in them, but free of charge. That's the incentive number one. And in terms of noise,
meaning the land is free.
So far, to those areas you have identified. I mean, they're already expropriated. Others, if you want, maybe if we give you this area and you prefer the other area and the people are still on them, you expropriate them.
So
but
if
you
you
give
want to do an entertainment project, for example, in Chimichanga,
Like an amusement park.
there is a
For free.
negotiation and there's a discount for a person. Because if we were to develop the free area, the recreation area, and the money we had to put, we don't have now. Now, an investor is going to bring the money and develop the site. So we negotiate where we agree on a discount. Of course, it isn't 100% free, but it isn't as it would be if you expropriated the people out there. It would be much expensive for an investor.
And I also agree the land should not be free.
Sorry?
I agree with
It
you.
isn't
Land
free.
should
It
not
isn't
be
free
Yeah,
100%,
it
but
should not be
somehow there's some cost sharing. And in terms of noise, I don't know why we are not really understanding this. We haven't said we are limiting people to doing business to the time mentioned, as you say. But there is a condition. You can do throughout the night, but on condition that you don't disturb the neighborhood. So this is whereby even if you want to enjoy and celebrate the festive season, you have to consider there are other people that want to rest. Maybe they've been awake the previous 2 nights, they want now to sleep. So you're out there shouting to them. So make a facility whereby you soundproof the room where you are doing the celebration, then give other people security. So we just put the condition through the guidance of this policy we have to do it through the night if you wish, but consider
Not if
the
you
noise.
wish. I think, and this is
Consider
where
there are other people in the neighborhood.
Let's not fall into repeating these comments. I think, Charles, they have gotten, and Bernard, I think our guests have understood this, what we're trying to talk about. And again, I think I would like, with all fairness, I'd like to pick on our private sector. Because I think you've explained it. If you have the facilities that are soundproofed, please go ahead until
Sure.
God knows when, but don't
But that's
make...
not right, Diana.
Yes, no, let me finish. And I think what I would like to do is to also challenge the private sector to invest in these soundproof facilities to a certain degree. Because I think the relevant authority to a certain level have done their job, have put the regulations there, have consulted with various institutions, and at the end of the day, it's trying to have a win-win situation for the revelers vis-a-vis the people who are probably at home. I think the conversation should maybe be with the private sector people to come and tell us what challenges are they facing.
I beg to disagree.
Charles, please, you've spoken and I want us to move. But I would like to challenge the private sector to have a conversation whereby they express what challenges they have in maybe not meeting these regulations and standards.
Actually, to cut you short there, recently, in 3 months ago, we had a meeting for the private sector federation, having invited every investor, locally or an international investor in the country. This is among the opportunities we put on list for them to come and invest their money to, boost their businesses. So we have done it. We are still saying. We shall continue saying it.
No one will invest in the entertainment industry.
Charles,
and I will repeat this.
Yes, Charles,
It
please.
is
There's
no money to be made.
No, we have received some.
But
They have brought their designs.
Your point.
And they will stop at the designs.
We are discussing. No, they are not stopping.
They will stop
Charles,
at the designs. Yes.
To not have blanket statements like that, I think we'll continue this conversation another time, but I think they've gotten your point in terms of the limitations of time and spending during the festive season, but they've also told us why there are regulations in this regard. Brenna, very quickly. Please,
Yeah, very
before we get to
quickly.
the next point.
I think we're just focusing on indoor activities when we talk about soundproof. We need
So outdoor
yes,
facilities
outdoor,
can't go
yes.
past midnight. This is what
yes, and we're saying no, that's unfair. That's
We're
unfair.
blessed with the weather.
Why
You're
should we
absolutely
be
right.
limited
Yeah.
to indoor activities? Why? I mean, look at Kigali. It's beautiful. You have fresh air. I want to be out there dancing with fresh air. I don't want to be in the AC. No way.
And you want to be in this fresh air
Yes.
past the time
I mean,
that is
people are
given.
coming from Europe, where they spend most of the time forced to be indoors. When they come here, where the weather is perfect, they want to be outdoor. So create space for them.
That goes beyond the hours.
Yes, yes.
Afande
yes.
Kabera, I would like the next question, I would like to address it to you before we go for the break, and this is to do with security and zoning. And again, it is what my resident panelists is also talking about. What areas can people go to? What are the do's and don'ts? Are there zoned areas that police is going to, will announce, for instance? And also, we want to understand what level of facilitation Rwanda National Police will give revelers during this season.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I want to say that Rwanda is a country of law and order, and every one of us here would wish to be like that.
Absolutely.
That's why we love our country.
So, yes, yes. And so Rwanda National Police will ensure public safety and security during this festival season. We don't have the kind of zoning for security. Events can take place everywhere in the country.
Kigali is not under a siege.
So you can imagine.
North, east, south,
There are no
central,
limitations.
west, as long as the parties and events are approved by relevant authorities. One national police will be able to provide the required safety and security as long as, throughout the whole festival season. So we are not going, there are no things like zoning. People should be able to travel across the country freely. Okay, should be able to feel secure, should be able to feel assured.
Can I ask you a question?
We don't.
Can I ask you a question?
Honestly, we don't.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Last year, I know that police, they did a very admirable thing. Police was taking care of drunk drivers. So I don't know if it's still going to happen, but there were people who were driving while drunk, and the police would either follow them in a car. Or, do you remember this element?
They were being dropped home.
People were being dropped home by police. I remember I made the headlines because I thought to myself, which police does that in any country across the world? And is it something that will happen again this
So
year?
during the policing of this festival season event, Rwanda National Police has got a lot of contingencies. So that will depend on the assessment. But basically, it is not the duty of National Police to transport or even take drunk.
I agree.
Careless
So
partygoers.
I was asked the same question in today's conference, press conference at the State of Kigali.
Yes.
We said people have got their cars, their transport companies, their private taxis. But
And I
national
agree
police
with you. I
will be
don't
able
think you
to
should.
give security.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
So
agree with
we
you.
don't plan this. But there are many contingencies, as you can see. We are going to have 15 events in 10 days.
In 10 days.
So that
So
this means increase the responsibility for the part of organizers, increase the responsibility for the city of Kigali, increase the responsibility for the part of the police. So we of course, we are going to plan accordingly, and we shall be handling the situations as they develop.
I would like us to go for a break briefly, Charles Pena, and to our guests very briefly, but we'll come back after the break. Please stay tuned. We'll be back right after the break.
Many people have been asking what we have been up to. Well, we have told the different stories from decision makers, but this time round it will be different. We will be getting head to head with various influencers and get to the heart of the matter. It is not an easy ride, but we'll endeavor to get you there. It will be insightful, informative, and at times we will agree to disagree, because we are the bridge to your leaders.
Welcome back to the Square. We are here discussing the festive season in Kigali and also understanding how relevant authorities are actually prepared to facilitate revelers and merrymakers here. Some of the key things we've been talking about is in terms of permissions for events. We've also been talking about entertainment and the regulations, and we'll be having a heated exchange on the hours. On the hours, should parties? We want people to spend as much. We want people to invest in events, and we are here listening to our authorities telling us and having a debate on the time. Should parties really end at midnight? Should they end at 3 a.m.? Do they always have to be soundproofed? Can they be outdoors? And so forth and so on. I want us to go to our Twitter page, to our Twitter feed, because there's some tweets that are coming in based on this particular conversation. And our first tweet is from Stephen. And Stephen says, Nkurunziza Stephen says, my view, police is responsible of enforcing policies in place and will be accountable for how it enforces them. If the policies are not convenient enough to the public, ask policymakers, not police. CP, what do you have to say?
Stephen has
No,
to be a policeman.
no.
I think the most irrelevant person in this conversation is Afande
Yes,
Kabera.
but let him answer that tweet, Charles.
Because this is not their problem.
Yes,
Yeah.
but let him answer
The
that
city
tweet,
of
Charles.
Kigali is making
Charles.
their problem, their work difficult.
Okay, can you let
Charles,
their
we
friends
have
answer
had
that?
several complaints about how some of these events are closed and stopped when the stipulated hours, when they reach a stipulated time, and that was given by the state of Kigali according to approval. So we are very relevant in this because at the end of the day, we receive complaints. We do on the blog, on the social media.
What I meant by you not being, because
You
for you,
enforce.
in your own words, Afande
enforce.
Kabera,
And
in your own words, Afande Kabera, you
Yes.
said you only enforce.
yes,
So this is, you should not be beaten for enforcing.
absolutely.
So
But
let the
policy
policy maker get their
Kigali
stick.
City. Yeah.
That comment from,
Yes,
from Stephen
so,
is
so
very
let,
collective.
let the vice mayor fight her own wars.
Yes.
Don't fight our wars.
But Haba, this is security.
Yes.
Yes, I understand. We are also implementers of the laws and the policies. You understand the decentralized entities and policy that govern the decentralization. So the city of Kigali, like any other local authority, we are implementers. Now, the security component
who is a
has
policymaker?
got the custodian. This is the Minister of
Justice.
Justice.
Oh, this is okay.
So you're saying, Afande
we are
Kabera
all-
is saying it's not his problem. It is the city's problem.
There's
The
no
city is
problem,
saying
mind
it's not
you.
your problem.
There is no
It is the
problem.
Minister of Justice's problem.
No, to correct a bit, there is no problem at all. There are just issues being discussed concerning.
There is a problem.
It
Can we come back to
isn't a
this?
problem.
Can we
There
come
is
back
no
to this?
problem in the policy.
Yes.
Not
There is
even
a
in
problem
the
in the
implementation.
policy.
Not even the enforcement.
No, there is a problem. We cannot have all this social media feed.
We need
And
to
you say there's
explain
no
to them.
problem.
We need to explain to them. That's why we are here.
Yes.
To tell them there is no any alarming issue at stake
It's extremely
concerning
alarming. We can't spend our money.
So I would like us, Charles, I would also like you to please, your contributions, let's not keep on repeating the same thing. I think we've heard your point, Brenda. We've heard the point where the issue is, and I think one of the things we should have a conversation with policymakers in terms of these time limits. I think that is something we need to dig deep further with policymakers. Our next tweet is from Blessed Muiza. Blessed Muiza is actually telling us that, sorry, that tweet has been lost, but we'll come back to it.
I think Blessed works for the Rwanda National Police.
I don't think so. But what Blessed Muiza is telling
But
us
it's
is
true.
special. But it's good to have compliments from the public, Charles.
that's
Sure.
true. And
I have
Special
complimented the
thanks
National
to-
Police all
I know.
throughout the show.
Special thanks to Rwanda Police for successfully saving us from noise pollution. We're really proud for your credible and professional services.
Okay.
The police
So-
does extremely good job.
Absolutely.
I wish the city of Kigali could support them.
Yes. So we're coming to the end of our show. I'd like us to have closing remarks. And for that reason, I want us to have brief closing. Oh, but wait, there's one last tweet. And one last tweet is from Imanzi. And he says, those parting shouldn't inconvenience those who want to sleep. Soundproof sounds good. Regards from
I know.
Kampala. Oh, wow.
I think
Regards from Kampala.
Thank you.
So I want us to have closing remarks. And Charles, I want to focus on you tonight. I'll start with you for your closing remarks. And please be brief. And if you can also add to what you've also strongly pointed out in terms of the issues during the festive season and entertainment as a possible linkage to the economy.
I think it's extremely important for the policy makers to understand that we're driving a meeting, events, conferencing destination. We need to have a vibrant city. If you cannot manage the sound do not market yourselves as an events destination. I rest my case.
Okay, fair enough. Berna, closing remarks?
I think we should look at the economy holistically and not just create policy for certain things. Yeah, so for me, I would like to see the city, one, give more incentives to have the private sector, to facilitate the private sector to take up some of these opportunities. And then two, it has to spend more time thinking about a 24/7 days economy. The issue
terms
of
of
time,
entertainment.
yes. The issue of time, 3 a.m., I should be able to do whatever I want at whatever time, as long as I'm doing it within the law. Yeah.
Afande Kabera, your closing
Yeah,
remarks?
thank you very much. My closing remarks is about what the police will do and what they request the public, one and public to understand. One, police will conduct enhanced patrols and ensure law and order, safety and security for all events and all Rwandans across the country or those people living in Rwanda. We request the public to understand that during these festival seasons, they should be able to understand the police in whatever they will be doing. Police will be involved in, for example, traffic regulations, for example, in parking areas. There could be road diversions. There could be able to identify parking areas. And every Rwandan should be able to approach our police officers to be able to be given the necessary advice. We request the bar owners and hotel owners and event managers not to serve the underage children with alcohol.
And those who are also very drunk.
Yeah, and those who are also very drunk, yes. So police have got toll-free lines which you can call and report any suspicious case or any incident. We've got 113 for accident, 112 for emergency, 111 for fire brigade, child help 116, marine 110, then abuse for police 3511. Yes, then ambulatory services for SAMI 912, and then anti-corruption 997. So we request the public to enjoy responsibly and work with the police throughout the festival season.
Thank you very much. CP Kabera, yes.
Thank you so
Honorable
much.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, I want to come back to this, reminding people that, many people are kind of guided much by what they call rights. You have a right to dance until to get...
Like Berna said.
Sure. But I want to refer to them to a saying that where some people's rights end is where other people's rights begin. Yes, you want to dance, but some neighbor wants to sleep. So you need to strike a balance. So as far as the discussion and the festive events, I want to remind people, consider always a neighbor, consider a friend in whatever you're doing, and put yourself in their shoes in whatever you want to do for you. Remember, they would also want some rights that you want to deprive of them. Thank you.
And I'd like to just to complement what you're saying. I think, Charles, also this issue of rights and partying and regulations and being, hyper-regulated to a certain degree. These issues, I think, will end, and I look forward to those recreational spaces when they leave. Because right now, I feel the constant balance is with neighbors, people in residential areas. I'm just looking forward to these spaces and to this. Right now, I won't speak, but in the future, because these recreational facilities, we won't have those issues of encroaching on the rights of neighbors in residential areas. Those spaces will be totally dedicated to these activities in terms of entertainment. Am I correct?
Yes, of course, that shall be also considered. We shall measure the distance. These are the purposes for the measurements they have given us. If some area is actually very far from the residential areas, then it can happen. Okay. People can dance until further notice.
Until further notice. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Afande Kabera and Honorable Vice Mayor Patricia, Brenna, always a pleasure to have you. And Charles, you are very, I can see this is something you're passionate about, Charlie. I look forward to this festive season. Yes. I look forward to this festive season with you all. Thank you very much once again. Please keep the conversation going on our Twitter page using the hashtag #TheSquareRW on the festive season and what we can expect in terms of authorities facilitating the Rwandan public. I'd like to thank our partners, Uzi Collections and Bourbon Coffee. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.